Public inquiry. I need to confess something wild. Something I haven't told a soul, not even my closest roommates. It feels crazy typing this out, like whispering into the void, but maybe it'll help. Maybe. Right. So, I'm Angel. 18 and I just moved to the big city last fall to start my degree at State University. It was overwhelming, exciting, terrifying. I lived in the dorms, sharing a cramped apartment-style setup with Brenda and Diane, both a bit older, working on their nursing degrees. I was their little sis. To help pay the bills, I snagged a part-time job as a hostess at the fancy university alumni club downtown. Polished silver, starched tablecloths, important men smoking cigars after dinner. You get the picture. One evening, maybe my third week, I was seating a group near the window overlooking the gardens. The air was thick with cigar smoke and expensive cologne. Someone called out, "Professor Miller, over here." I glanced over, just doing my job, making sure they had menus. Then another man laughed, clapped him on the shoulder. "Paul, you old dog, still charming the undergrads?" My breath hitched. Paul Miller? No way. Could it be? I looked closer. Tall. Dark hair swept back, sharp jawline, eyes that seemed to see right through you. He wore a beautifully tailored charcoal gray suit. Uncle Paul? My grandfather's stepson? My dad's brother-in-law? I hadn't seen him since I was maybe 11, visiting grandma. He used to push me on the tire swing, tell me silly jokes. Now here he was, Professor Paul Miller, head of the physics department, looking like he stepped off a movie screen, wealthy and assured in this glittering room. My hands trembled as I approached their table. I tried to sound professional. "Good evening, gentlemen. May I get you started with drinks?" He looked up, and for a second, just a split second, his gaze lingered on my face. Recognition flickered. Then it was gone, replaced by polite interest. "A bourbon, neat, thank you." His voice was deeper than I remembered, smooth as velvet. I nodded, feeling my cheeks flush. Later, when I brought his drink, he caught my eye again. "You look familiar. Have we met?" My heart hammered against my ribs. Professor Miller? I think. I'm Angel. James's daughter? Margaret's granddaughter?" His eyes widened slightly, then crinkled at the corners with a warm smile. "Angel? Little Angel? Good Lord, look at you." He stood up, towering over me, and took my hand gently. "You've grown into quite the young woman." The way he said it, the slight pressure of his fingers, it sent a shiver down my spine. "Wrong, Angel, so wrong," a little voice whispered. But he was just being kind, right? Family? That was the beginning, I guess. The spark. He started coming to the club more often, sometimes with colleagues, sometimes alone, reading papers at a corner table. He'd always request my section. "Angel, my dear, how are you finding the city?" "Angel, that blue dress suits you." Innocent enough, on the surface. But the glances, oh, the glances. Lingering looks across the room when he thought I wasn't watching. A brush of his hand against mine when I set down his coffee cup. Once, reaching for the salt shaker at the same time, our fingers touched. He didn't pull away immediately. His eyes held mine, dark and unreadable. I'd feel flustered for hours afterward, replaying it in my mind during boring lectures. I wore my best things to work hoping he'd be there. Like that Wednesday I wore my pale yellow sundress, cotton with tiny white daisies embroidered around the neckline, and underneath, my best matching set, a soft yellow satin brassiere with delicate lace trim and panties, sheer at the tops of the cups. Silly, really. But seeing him notice, it did something to me. Then came the fainting spell. Brenda dragged me to some dreadful sorority mixer the night before. Too much cheap wine, not enough sleep. The club was packed for a luncheon, the air stifling. I was carrying a heavy tray laden with soup bowls, the steam hitting my face, when the room started to tilt. Colors swam, voices faded into a buzz. Next thing I knew, I was lying on a crisp starched cot in the university infirmary, the smell of antiseptic sharp in my nose. And he was there. Uncle Paul. Sitting beside me, his large hand gently smoothing my hair back from my forehead. Easy now, Angel. You gave us quite a scare. His touch was so tender, yet so possessive. What happened? I mumbled, feeling weak and embarrassed. You fainted, darling. Too much work and not enough care for yourself. His voice was low, soothing. He insisted on driving me home. But not to the dorms. Those noisy girls won't let you rest properly. You're coming to my place. He said it like it was decided. I was too woozy to argue. His house, wow. Not far from campus, but a world away. A grand old Victorian, all turrets and wraparound porch, filled with dark wood furniture and leather-bound books. Elegant and masculine. He settled me onto a plush sofa in his study, tucked a cashmere throw around me. Rest. I'll make us some dinner. I must have dozed off. The smell of something delicious woke me. He'd cooked steak, perfectly medium rare, roasted potatoes, steamed asparagus. We ate in the cozy kitchen nook, candlelight flickering. He was charming, witty, telling me stories about his research, his travels. He poured me a small glass of rich red wine. I felt myself melting, drawn to his confidence, his intelligence. He felt safe. Familiar. But also, dangerous. He wasn't the uncle from my childhood anymore. He was a man. A very attractive, powerful man, and my first man. I mean the first man that I had thought about like this. And I was falling under his spell. I kept thinking, he's family. This is wrong. But the way he looked at me across the table, the intensity in his eyes, it made my stomach flip. It got late. Too late for the bus. Angel, I want you to stay, he said, clearing the plates. His hand brushed my shoulder. The guest room is made up. You shouldn't travel feeling fragile. The thought of staying under his roof, it terrified and thrilled me. I agreed. Stupid, stupid girl. I needed a bath to wash off the infirmary smell and the day's stress. The bathroom was enormous, with a huge clawfoot tub. I sank into the blessedly hot, scented water, wearing absolutely nothing, trying to calm my racing thoughts. The steam rose around me. I closed my eyes. The door creaked open. I froze. He stood there, silhouetted in the doorway, holding a fluffy white towel he'd probably brought for me. He probably didn't expect for me to get into the bath so fast. His eyes, they weren't looking at my face. They traveled slowly, deliberately, down my body submerged in the water. Down my neck, over my small breasts where the water lapped just below the nipples, down my flat stomach, to the shadowy triangle between my legs. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't cover myself. He didn't move either. Just stared. The silence was deafening, thick with something electric and forbidden. Seconds stretched into an eternity. I saw his chest rise and fall. Then, as if waking from a trance, he blinked, muttered, "Forgive me," dropped the towel on a chair, and closed the door sharply. I stayed in the cooling water, trembling, my heart pounding like a drum. He'd seen me. All of me. And he hadn't looked away. We didn't mention it over breakfast. The air crackled with unspoken tension. He drove me back to the dorms. "Angel, please take care of yourself." His voice was tight. Controlled. I practically ran inside. Back in my room, Brenda and Diane were gossiping over coffee. So Brenda grinned, "Angel's got a secret admirer? Saw Professor Miller's car drop you off. Lucky girl." Diane sighed dreamily. "Professor Miller? Oh, he's divine. Total dreamboat. Rumor has it he has a thing for the pretty young things. Always chatting them up after class." Jealousy, sharp and hot, stabbed through me. "He's my uncle." I snapped, surprising myself with my vehemence. It's not like that. They exchanged knowing looks. Sure, honey, whatever you say. All day, during lectures, in the library, his face swam before me. The way he'd looked at me in the bath. The possessive touch. The rumors. Was I just another conquest? The thought made me furious, and strangely, more obsessed. I had to see him. Not talk, just see him. I slipped into the back of his afternoon advanced thermodynamics lecture. He stood at the podium, commanding the room, writing complex equations on the blackboard. Powerful. Brilliant. And yes, devastatingly handsome. 3 girls sat right in the front row, hanging on his every word, exchanging glances, giggling softly when he made a dry joke. One flipped her hair, leaning forward. I felt a surge of possessiveness so strong it shocked me. He's mine, the thought screamed in my head. How had this happened? That evening, I had a late shift at the club. After the last members drifted out, the place was quiet, just the clinking of glasses as the busboys cleaned. Exhausted, emotionally wrung out, I remembered the small private sauna tucked away near the pool. It would be deserted this late. I needed to sweat out the confusion. I changed into my bathing suit in the locker room, a simple, modest one-piece, white nylon, smooth against my skin, with pink roses across the chest. I wrapped a thin white towel around my waist and padded barefoot into the dim, cedar-scented heat of the sauna. Blissful silence. I sat on the top bench, letting the heat seep into my bones, closing my eyes. Then I heard it. The soft sigh of the door opening. My eyes flew open. A figure stood there, shrouded in steam. My heart leapt into my throat. Then he stepped forward. Uncle Paul. Wearing only a small white towel slung low on his hips. Relief washed over me, instantly followed by a wave of panic. I instinctively pulled my towel tighter around me. Angel? What are you doing here so late? His voice was low, rough. Just, relaxing after my shift, I stammered. He closed the door. The small space felt suddenly intimate, suffocating. He walked towards me, his bare chest gleaming with a light sheen of sweat, muscles defined. He stopped right in front of me. Stand up. He said it quietly. Commandingly. My body obeyed before my mind could protest. I stood, clutching the towel. He reached out, his fingers brushing mine where they gripped the terry cloth. Let go. It wasn't a request. Slowly, tremblingly, my fingers uncurled. He pulled the towel away, letting it drop to the wooden bench. His eyes raked over me, just like in the bathroom, but this time I wasn't submerged. The white nylon clung to my small curves. His gaze was intense, appraising, hungry. So lovely, he murmured, more to himself than to me. My mind buzzed. Wrong. Family. Scandal. But my body was responding. A warmth pooled low in my belly, different from the sauna heat. He stepped closer. The scent of him, clean sweat and cedar and something uniquely male, filled my nostrils. His hand rose, fingertips tracing a feather-light line from my collarbone, down over the swell of my breast covered by the white nylon. I gasped. His fingers continued, tracing the curve of my hip, then down the outside of my thigh. I stood frozen, paralyzed by conflicting sensations, fear, shame, and an undeniable, terrifying arousal. His other hand joined, sliding around to the small of my back, pulling me slightly closer. I could feel the heat radiating from him. His eyes locked onto mine. Such soft skin, he said. His fingers drifted lower, tracing the edge of the nylon where it met my thigh, then higher, brushing against the thin fabric covering my most secret place. A jolt shot through me. I whimpered. I couldn't help it. His eyes darkened. Then I saw it. Beneath the towel at his hips, something was stirring, growing hard, pressing insistently against the thin white cotton. My eyes widened. He noticed. A slow, knowing smile touched his lips. Still holding my gaze, his hands moved to the straps of my bathing suit. He slid them slowly, slowly down my shoulders. His knuckles brushed my skin. The top sagged. He hooked his thumbs into the sides, near my hips. "Lift your arms," he whispered. Hypnotized, I obeyed. In one smooth motion, he peeled the white nylon down my legs, leaving me utterly bare before him in the steamy haze. He let the suit drop. His gaze devoured me. "Perfect," he breathed. His hands returned to my body, no longer tracing, but claiming. Cupping my breasts, thumbs rubbing over the sensitive peaks until they hardened into tight buds. Sliding down my waist, over my hips, fingers dipping between my legs, exploring my wetness, finding that sensitive nub and circling it with maddening slowness. I moaned, arching into his touch despite myself. My reluctance was crumbling under his relentless exploration. He guided me backwards until my legs hit the lower bench. "Sit," he commanded. I sat. He stood before me, his arousal straining against the towel. He let it drop. I saw him fully for the first time. Magnificent. Powerful. Thick and hard. My breath hitched. He sat next to me, the skin of our thighs meeting. His hands gripped my waist. "Up," he ordered, his voice thick with desire. He lifted me easily, as if I weighed nothing, positioning me so I straddled his lap as he sat on the bench. His hardness pressed against my wetness like I was sitting on a flagpole. It was so hard and hot against me. My mind screamed no. Stop. He is family. But my body was liquid fire. He guided my hips up, hovering over him, the head of his thing pressing against my wet petals. I gasped. I couldn't believe what I was doing. How did I get here? "Look at me, Angel," he demanded. I forced my eyes to meet his. They were dark, possessive, burning. He gripped my hips firmly. He pushed me down slightly as I gasped with pain. This was the first time I was doing anything like this, and it hurt. It felt so big. He paused and waited for my breathing to slow, and he would pull me down another inch. I would scream, but then I covered my mouth with my hand. I would continue this as he fully submerged himself inside me. The fear, the panic, the pain. I mean, anyone could open the door at any moment. This was my own uncle, and he had this thing inside me. My head was spinning with contradictions, but I couldn't help it. It felt so new, so exciting. When he was finally in, he brought my mouth to his and he kissed me so deeply, so softly, so gentle, so wet. It was heaven. As I was moaning in his mouth, he lifted me up again, almost pulling me off him. Then he repeated again, the inching down. The gasps and the waiting. More kissing. I was dizzy with desire and I was soaking wet as his shaft penetrated me. The stretching sensation quickly replaced by an overwhelming fullness. Then he began to move my hips for me, slowly at first, showing me the rhythm. Up and down. His hands were strong, controlling. I was just along for the ride, surrendering to the sensations he was orchestrating. The friction was incredible, building a pressure deep inside me I'd never known. He watched my face, my reactions, his own breathing becoming ragged. He increased the pace, thrusting upwards to meet my downward movements. The sound of our bodies meeting, slick and urgent, filled the small space. My head fell back, moans escaping my lips unbidden. He took one hand from my hip, his fingers finding that sensitive peak, rubbing in tight circles. The dual sensations were too much. I shattered, a wave of intense pleasure crashing through me, clenching around him. I could feel me tighten on his rod with each contraction, my back arched and wave after wave of pleasure shocked through me. Looking back now, I realized that this was my first climax, it was my first everything. He groaned, a deep, primal sound. His rhythm sped up, bobbing me up and down with such heights. He was so long that I felt like I was jumping off of his lap, but he still remained inside me. His grip on my hip tightened almost painfully as he thrust deep, deeper than I ever thought possible. Then he closed his eyes, grunted, then holding me down, releasing himself inside me with a final, shuddering groan. His expulsion was huge, it felt like it was thumping inside me, repeated over and over. I could feel the slickness, so wet and so slippery. We stayed like that for long moments, breathing heavily, slick with sweat and steam, still joined. He brushed damp hair from my forehead. "My reluctant angel," he said, a trace of satisfaction in his voice. The shame hit me like a physical blow. What had I done? I scrambled off his lap, grabbing my discarded suit and towel, fumbling to cover myself. I fled the sauna without a backward glance, leaving him sitting there. The guilt was crushing. Overwhelming. How could I face him, my own uncle, my own family? How could I face myself? I felt dirty, used, yet, a treacherous part of me hummed with the memory of the pleasure. It was unbearable. The next morning, I went straight to the club manager. "I need to quit. Immediately. Personal reasons." I avoided the alumni club area entirely. I threw myself into my studies, trying to bury the memories under textbooks and lectures. I changed my routes across campus to avoid the physics building. He tried, yes he tried. I saw him waiting near my dorm once. I ducked behind a tree. He called my name softly in the library stacks. I turned and walked quickly the other way, heart pounding. I couldn't. It was too much. Too forbidden. Too shattering. Midterms came. The pressure was intense. I was holed up in the dusty, quiet upper stacks of the main library, surrounded by towering shelves of ancient books, trying to memorize molecular structures. The air was still, smelling of paper and dust. Only a few dedicated souls were scattered about. Then I saw him. Uncle Paul. Moving silently between the shelves a few aisles over, pulling out volumes, absorbed in his research. My traitorous heart leapt. Curiosity, that dangerous pull, got the better of me. I quietly followed, keeping a distance, peeking through the gaps in the books. Watching him. The way he ran a hand through his hair in thought. The intensity of his concentration. He turned slightly. His eyes met mine through the books. Eyes held. A jolt went through me. I panicked. Turned to flee. I heard his footsteps, quick and purposeful, following me. I wove deeper into the labyrinth of shelves, into a dimly lit corner rarely used. A dead end. I turned, pressing my back against the cold stone wall. He was there. Blocking the way. His expression was unreadable, intense. "Angel, why are we running?" he asked softly, stepping closer. He pinned me to the wall, his body pressing against mine, his hands flat against the stone on either side of my head. Caged. "Leave me alone," I whispered, trying to sound firm, but my voice trembled. "Please." He ignored me. Lowered his head. Kissed me. Hard. Possessively. I turned my face away. "No." I pushed against his chest. He caught my wrists easily in one large hand, pinning them above my head against the wall. He kissed me again, his tongue demanding entry. I resisted, keeping my lips sealed, shaking my head. "Stop this, Angel," he said against my mouth. His free hand slid down, cupping my breast through my pink cotton blouse and the silk undergarments. His thumb found my nipple, rubbing it through the layers until it hardened. A moan escaped me despite my efforts. He took advantage, his tongue plunging into my mouth. And then I kissed him back. Desperately. Hungrily. All the longing, the confusion, the shame, poured into that kiss. I missed him. God help me, I missed him so much. The feel of him, the taste of him. My body melted against his. He released my wrists, his hands roaming down my back, squeezing my bottom, pulling me tighter against his growing hardness. He broke the kiss, breathing heavily. His eyes burned into mine. He looked around the dim corner. Spotted an old, heavy wooden armchair tucked away. He pulled me towards it. Sat down. His hands went to the waistband of my sensible brown bop skirt. He unzipped them. "Take them off," he ordered, his voice rough. I hesitated for only a second before obeying, stepping out of them, standing before him in my lavender silk lace panties and white stockings clipped to my garter belt. He looked me over, a predator admiring his prey. Then his hands were on my hips, pulling me towards him, between his knees. He nuzzled the silk covering my buttocks, his hands sliding up my stockings to the bare skin of my thighs. "So beautiful," he murmured, his breath hot against my breasts. His fingers found the edge of my panties, slid beneath the silk over my buttocks. He reached to my wet slit from behind. I gasped as he touched me intimately, finding me already soaking wet. He stroked, explored, his eyes watching my face, seeing every reaction he elicited. My buttocks extended backwards, opening my intimates to his touch. Then he stood up and guided me. My hands were on the seat of the chair, bent over, me in my panties, bra and stockings, my buttocks exposed to his towering figure behind me. He reached around, his hands roaming over my silk-covered breasts, pinching my nipples through the fabric. One hand slid down, back between my legs, then pulling my panties down to my thighs. He positioned me slightly, spreading my thighs wider apart. Then I felt him, hard and hot, pressing against me from behind. I was already soaking wet, so the head inserted itself without much protest, but the shaft was so thick, so I gasped, trying to be quiet. He inched forward, slowly, and the heat burned as it went in. I was screaming inside with pleasure, but my face was wincing in agony. The deeper the penetration, the more my head felt dizzy. He filled me completely in this new position, my back arched and his hands gripping my hips. I could not understand how I got here. In my university library, bent over a chair and behind me is a professor, who is also my uncle. The thought of what I looked like made me so terrified, but for some reason this terror was so exciting. Making my heart pound in my chest, and the pleasure of him filling me was earth-shattering. His rhythm started, but there was definitely an urgency. I could hear the slapping of our skin filling the silence of the stacks. I kept looking up and around, any moment someone could turn the corner and catch us. He held me tightly against him, one arm across my chest, hand still fondling my breast, the other hand between my legs, fingers working that sensitive spot with expert precision as he began to move into me. The angle was deep, intense. He set a relentless rhythm, thrusting into me, his fingers rubbing in perfect counterpoint. The sensations built quickly, overwhelmingly. The forbidden location, the risk of being discovered, his total control, it pushed me over the edge faster than before. I cried out, muffling it against my wrist, my body convulsing around him. We hardly made a sound, but my mind was exploding with screams. He groaned, his thrusts becoming harder, faster, more urgent. I think we both felt our lives flashing before our eyes. This situation, you can see the headlines. He buried his face in my neck, biting gently as he drove deep one final time, releasing himself inside me with a shuddering growl. His release was particularly massive. I could feel with each contraction he was depositing in me a large sum of liquid, which immediately started to run down my thighs. He quickly pulled out of me and took out his handkerchief from his jacket and gave it to me. I started to wipe myself down and we quickly dressed. I quickly started walking away and he grabbed my shoulder and turned me around. He pushed me into one of the stacks and kissed me deeply, softly. Then he whispered into my ear, "Alice, my good girl." The shame returned, but weaker this time, mingled with a fierce, undeniable thrill. We both left the library separately, none the wiser. After that, there was no turning back. We were like gunpowder and flame. The secrecy only fueled the fire. We communicated through notes slipped into library books, brief touches in crowded hallways, coded messages about meeting places. It was intoxicating. The risk. The danger. His complete dominance. I craved it. I discovered a side of myself I never knew existed, submissive, eager to please him, to feel his control. One evening at sunset, he left a note in my mailbox, "Bell Tower 7 p.m. come alone." My heart raced. The old bell tower on the edge of campus offered a panoramic view, but it was usually locked. He must have a key. I climbed the narrow, winding stone stairs, my footsteps echoing. He was waiting at the top, by the huge, silent bells, silhouetted against the dying light. The view was breathtaking, the city lights just starting to twinkle below. People still milled about on the quad beneath us. He turned, pulled me close, kissed me deeply. Then, without a word, he turned me to face the view, pressing my hands against the cool stone ledge. His hands went to his trousers. I heard the zip. He stepped close behind me. His hardness pressed against my backside. His hands slid under my skirt. I was wearing a simple navy blue pencil skirt, wool blend, hitting just below the knee, and underneath, white cotton panties with a tiny pink heart. He pushed the skirt up, his fingers hooking into the waistband of my panties, pulling them down just enough. He positioned himself. Pushed inside me from behind. I gasped, gripping the ledge. He filled me quicker this time. The urgency was a factor, but also my body was adjusting to this thickness. I was so wet with excitement because I could hear the conversations of the people walking past below us. This was sheer craziness. But the thrill of it, it made me oh so wet. And his massive thing, it was hurting me in a owning way. He owned me and could do what he wanted with me, where he wanted. I only wanted to please him, to give him pleasure. He came to climax much faster this time, exploding inside me with short thrusts, depositing his seed deep inside me, deeper than I had ever felt before. Then he pulled out of me and turned me around, pushing me gently to my knees. This was something I didn't expect. There I was knelt before him, standing upright, waiting for his instructions. He said, "Open up for me, Angel." I opened my mouth and took him inside. It slid in so wet, so thick, and the taste was so strange, nothing like I had ever tasted before. He said, "Suck it out and swallow." I didn't understand the command, but I started sucking. I could feel more contractions and more squirts of liquid hitting my throat, the flavor again. And I swallowed. I didn't want to disappoint him. This man that was taking me so completely, and I was lost in the experience. The strangeness and newness of it. I was willing to do anything for him. I swallowed everything that came out and more. I cleaned him until I couldn't taste the strange flavor anymore. His eyes looked so deeply into mine with satisfaction and I gleamed with joy. I was like a schoolgirl in love when he looked at me. Like before, we cleaned up and quickly and got out of there separately. We were reckless. Consumed. Summer arrived. I told my parents I'd landed a fantastic research assistant position in a university lab and needed to stay in the city. They were thrilled, proud. The lie tasted bitter, but the alternative, unthinkable. The truth? Uncle Paul swept me away. Mexico. Sun-drenched beaches, bustling markets, colonial cities. And everywhere, the thrill of almost getting caught. His appetite was insatiable, his daring boundless. On a secluded but public beach near Tulum, he pulled me behind some rocks, his hands already under my sundress, fingers finding my wetness. "Now, Angel," he breathed, pushing my bikini bottoms aside, thrusting into me standing up, the ocean waves crashing nearby. In the shadowed corner of a crowded cantina, his hands sliding up my thigh under the table, his eyes holding mine as he brought me to a silent, shuddering peak with just his fingers while people laughed and danced around us. On a balcony overlooking a moonlit plaza, him taking me from behind, my hands pressed against the wrought iron railing, the sounds of mariachi music drifting up, his release warm inside me. Each time, the fear of discovery mixed with the intense pleasure of surrendering completely to his will, to his desire. And the forbidden nature of our relation. Well, I just gave into his will, his desire. The submission was complete. I was his. Utterly. Willingly. Now, sitting here writing this, months later, back in the city but living secretly in his grand house, playing the devoted niece when family visits, the shame still flickers. What we're doing is wrong. Twisted, some would say. The weight of the secret is heavy. If anyone found out, the scandal would destroy our families, his career, my future. But the thrill? Oh, the thrill is like nothing else. The way he looks at me when no one else is watching, that possessive gleam. The feel of his hands on my skin, commanding, demanding. The way he makes my body sing, completely under his control. The way he whispers, mine, when he releases himself deep inside me. That first time in the sauna, I was frozen, reluctant. Now, I crave his domination. I need it. His will is my pleasure. And I wouldn't trade that feeling, that dangerous, consuming, mind-blowing connection, for anything in the world. Not even for peace of mind. Is that terrible? Maybe. But it's my secret. My forbidden, exhilarating, once-in-a-lifetime secret. And I am hopelessly, completely, in love with him. My uncle. My professor. My Paul.